Hey, I'm Eric Goins. I play the Gambler on DC Stargirl, now on DC Universe and the CW. I'm here with Elias on the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Eric, welcome to the cave.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you, man? What's new with you?
Oh, you know, everything. Stargirl,
That's right.
pandemic. There's lots going on in the world.
Right. You've been busy for a few years, man, with TV shows and, like you said, Stargirl, man. Do you and you teach also?
Yes, sir. I teach as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I teach improv for many, many years, and I help coach actors how to break down scripts and present themselves on camera.
That's awesome. Do you ever have like any breaks on you, man? I know you have kids too, right?
Yeah, I have one child, have a daughter, and she occupies quite a bit of my time these days.
There you go. So, for the listeners, man, where are you originally from?
Originally, I'm from Tampa, Florida. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in '89 to go to college, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, wow. So when you stayed there, was the reason you stayed there was for acting?
No, so I got into acting later in life. So I have walked down a very diverse path, you could say. So I was actually a biology major. I was pre-med in college for 4 years, and got out of college, decided not to go to med school, and went into the workforce so I could pay my bills. I worked in corporate jobs for quite a few years until about 1998. And in '98, some friends of mine took me to an improv show for my birthday, and I fell in love with what they were doing on stage. And I decided to audition for class, and the rest is history for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had no idea when you were young that this is the path you were like. Did you like have any idea like growing up that acting?
You know, now that I look back on my life and the things that interested me, I can see it. And I think the time that I grew up, so I was kind of a class clown, right? Like I was always looking to make people laugh. I got in trouble a lot in school. And I just think that maybe I didn't have those teachers around me that recognized that what I was doing was not necessarily acting out, but it was just maybe someone who was more inclined to performance. And I wish I had those adults around me as a kid who might have identified that, because, you know, I found it later in life, and I'm really fulfilled now. But I wonder what would have happened if somebody would have recognized it a little earlier in my life, because it was hard. I didn't even know what avenues were available in the theater world and the acting world. And nobody really presented those to me. It took me going to an improv show on my birthday to kind of fall into it.
Wow. What kind of improv show was it?
So it was short form improv. So there are two types of improv: long form and short form. And so long form is what you might see a lot of times on television, where they go on for maybe 35, 45 minutes without taking a break, and they build one long narrative. And then short form is a series of 2.5 to 5 minute scenes. And over the course of a show, maybe a 2-hour show, you might see 12 of those. And they're a little bit quicker paced. So you get to it a little, your beginning, middle, and end of your story happens pretty quickly. And then they throw kind of traditional improv games on top of those scenes to kind of boost the entertainment factor. And so you end up getting a little bit more audience participation, and it's a little faster paced and a little more dynamic in the sense of when you're watching it. If a scene's not going well, then it ends and you start a new one. Whereas in long form, if the scene's not going well, you got to really fight to get this thing back on track.
So when you were doing the improv, were you also taking acting classes?
No, I haven't really taken any like I've taken very few traditional acting classes.
Yeah.
Most of my training came from my improv training, and I think it's incredible training for any actor. I think every single person should take improv, quite frankly, because it teaches these great lessons. And the lessons are, first of all, that we shouldn't judge each other, because when you're on stage, if you're judging your partner, then you're not going to have a very successful experience, because you're thinking about what's wrong with your partner and why they just said that, as opposed to just living in the moment. But it also teaches you not to judge yourself. And I think that's an important lesson for actors, to make their choice and dive in head first. And hopefully everyone likes it, but if they don't, it's nothing personal. You're just expressing yourself in an authentic way. And improv really taught me that, because you can't go in front of a group of people and be anything other than yourself, because the audience they'll pick it up. And as soon as they pick up that you're not being authentic, they think you're hiding something, and nobody wants to watch somebody speak if they think they're hiding something, particularly an actor.
Do you like interacting with the audience?
I got to tell you, it's the only addiction I have. Like, in being in front of a live audience gives me a rush like nothing else, and I have a hard time not doing it. I took a break when I was early in my early years of improv. I did it alongside working in the corporate world, and there started to be some conflict, and so I decided to walk away from improv for a year, and so that I could focus on my job, because I had a good job. I was working for a marketing communications company. I was making good money, and so it felt like the right thing to do, but I was profoundly unhappy for an entire year. And finally I went back to the stage, and found that excitement again. I love it. There's nothing like it.
Were you when you were working the job, were you married?
So I met my wife at the Improv Theater.
Okay.
So I performed improv Tuesday night, Thursday night, 2 shows on Friday night, 2 shows on Saturday night, rehearsal on Wednesdays. Sometimes we rehearsed on Mondays. So it was like a 5 or 6 day a week thing. And when you go in for a show on a Friday night, you get there at 6 and you leave at like 2 a.m. And so your world gets really, really small. And so I met my wife at the Improv Theater, because she's an actor as well. And we did improv alongside each other for 10 years.
Wow. Because my question was going to be because I was like, okay, if you're married and you went home one day and you're like, you know what, I'm going to quit my job just to go do improv. I was like, I wanted to hear that story.
Yeah.
Like, how did that go?
There aren't many stories that end happily like that. I'm sure, honey. I'm going to be an improviser. No, I was fortunate that I have a wife that's incredibly supportive, and
Awesome.
she's also an actor herself, and she loves improv as much as I do. So, it's an easy sell in our house.
It's like one of the questions I always ask people, I've had guests where they're in college and they don't even know they're going to get into acting, and when they do, it's like, how did that conversation go when you went home, for spring break or something like that, and you tell your parents, I'm going to go in the acting world? And it's always like, some parents are flipping out. Some parents are like, we kind of had an idea this is what you really wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm sure those conversations happen all over the country, all over the world every day. Fortunately, I had good supportive family and good supportive people around me, and it wasn't never an issue.
How long did you do improv until you started going out for auditions for TV shows and film?
I was probably doing improv for about 5 years before I got an agent. And it just so happened a friend of mine was at an audition, and he called me and said, hey, I think they're looking for someone that's just like you. And I was like, I don't have an agent. I don't know I've never been to an audition. And he said, just take a picture and print it out and bring it. And I still have that picture. It's horrible. It's like black and white. It's out of focus. And I ended up getting a call back, which means they're bringing you to the second round of auditions.
Yeah.
So the agent actually signed me that day. So just in case I booked it, I was on their roster. Right. And I've had that agent ever since.
Wow.
And we basically here in Atlanta had a pretty lively industrial and commercial environment here. And so I kind of cut my teeth on that kind of stuff. And then the tax incentives passed in 2008. And then TV and movies started coming to Georgia. And I was just the right place at the right time. And
that's awesome.
Everything kind of fell in place.
Was your goal eventually TV and film, or did you at first maybe I'll just stick with improv and see where it takes me? Or
Yeah, so one of the things that improv taught me is to be process driven, not product driven. So I never really set my goals in a kind of product driven sense. So I never said, I want to be on TV. I had said, I want to really engage in the process of being an actor and be really, really good at it, and be an improviser and be really, really good at it, and see where that takes me. Because I do really enjoy the process of being an actor. I enjoy doing my auditions as much as I do being on set. It's a different kind of
Yeah.
and a different kind of experience, but I enjoy breaking down a script, thinking about the humanity within each story and trying to apply that to myself. So the biggest advice I have for actors is just to focus on the process, and the product always seems to take care of itself if you're really focused on the process, because you'll be so good, like, Steve Martin says, you'll be so good people can't ignore you.
Right. And Steve Martin's a legend.
Legend.
I always put, I don't know what it is, I put Steve Martin in the legend category.
He is in the legend category. Yeah, he's got a great book. I just got done reading his book a couple weeks ago. It's phenomenal.
Like my uncle had a record. Ever hear that old record of a stand-up?
No, I've never heard the record. I've seen a lot of his stand-up just kind of on TV.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
So as an actor now, like, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy live audition or self-tape?
I think there's nothing that replaces live auditions. I mean, the opportunity to work one-on-one with a casting director, and in callbacks, a lot of times you'll have a director present. So you get a great sense of what the story should feel like, and you get direct input on your performance and feedback, right? I do enjoy self-tapes. I think they can become a little sterile because you're kind of working in a vacuum. You're not getting the kind of information you might get at an in-person audition. I'm fortunate that I get to do most of my self-tapes with my wife, who I respect as an actor and who we work really well together. So I get to get that kind of feedback. But I think nothing replaces an in-person audition, because you get to develop relationships with casting directors and directors. And a lot of times it's about giving them a sense of who you are as a person as much as it is about being a great actor. There's a lot of casting directors and directors that say, we knew so-and-so was right for the part as soon as he or she walked in the room. We were just hoping that they knew the lines and they could get through it because they're perfect for what we're looking for. And I think that's that humanity that sometimes maybe a taped audition doesn't communicate as well as an in-person audition. But obviously a taped audition gives you an opportunity to work the scene a little bit more.
The thing about self-tape too, like I've talked to other guests, are like, they might not even watch it, because what if they find the person that they know the part is right for? They might not even get to your tape.
Yeah, I know. You got to hope that they're going to go through all of them.
Yeah.
At least somebody's going to vet them all, or that you've done enough auditions for a casting director that they'll do their due diligence and at least review what you've submitted. And I think I got to believe that the process does work that way. Otherwise, you're kind of starting from a doom and gloom kind of situation. So I just have to believe in the best and believe that my chances are as good as anybody else who submits that day, and that everyone's going to get a fair shake. And I got to believe in that.
So before you got cast on Stargirl, you did a few other shows like Meet the Browns, One Tree Hill. Like, what was like one of your favorite ones that sticks out the most?
Halt and Catch Fire was probably one of my favorite opportunities. It was a great cast, a great production, a lot of fun. It was about kind of like the advent of the laptop computer in the 80s, which is kind of like an era that I grew up in. So it's kind of nostalgic for me. It was a lot of fun working with someone like Scoot McNairy for a long term. Was a lot of fun. I would say another great experience that I had, I actually got cut out of the movie, but the experience was amazing. It's a movie called The Boss, and it stars Melissa McCarthy. And I was on there for what was supposed to be just a single line with her. And in the callback, she and I improvised quite a bit. And we went on for a long time in the single scene. And when I got on set, she wanted to improvise with me. and we spent almost half a day, maybe longer, improvising this scene between the two of us, which while I was doing it was this realization. I was like, oh, this is where I was meant to be. This is me fulfilling what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet, is like being in the moment, improvising, breathing life into this character, and just having this incredible experience with this very gracious actor. And that was probably one of the best experiences that I've had on set, even though my entire scene got cut from the movie.
Wow. Do you have a copy of that scene? Do you?
Everybody
No.
asked me about that, and I really wish I did. I can't believe I didn't get
I'm
it.
sure you could probably get your hands on it somehow.
Yeah, I probably could. I think it was in a cut. I think it was in the original cut. The original cut was substantially longer than what it ended up being, and I think it might be in that original cut. I just have to reach out and try to grab it.
So now you star in CW's Stargirl. How did you get involved with that project? And congrats, by the way, season 2 got picked up.
I know. How exciting is that? That's super exciting for everybody involved. It's a great show. I got involved. The same way everybody else does. I got an audition notice, and I auditioned for the show and went through the process and got cast pretty right before they started shooting. But it was, it's the same process that every actor goes through to book a role. I didn't really know many of the details about what I was auditioning for, quite frankly, when I originally auditioned. They don't tell you a ton. I didn't even have they're called dummy sides, basically. It's a script that's not really in the show. It's just written up as a kind of like a dummy script to see if you fit the essence of the character without giving you any storyline or details, because, a show like anything DC is going to have, they're going to want to keep things really close to the chest as far as what their script and their storyline is going to be.
And this got filmed a year ago almost, right? Or more.
Yeah, we wrapped in September and we started in March of last year. So we shot for quite a bit and we wrapped sometime, I think it was like September 3rd.
So like when you got booked for the role, you knew you were going to play the gambler, Steven Sharp. Like, did you go back to read comics or anything when you got this? Did you know anything about the character?
So when I got cast, I didn't know exactly. Even when I got cast, I didn't know what I was playing. I had no idea. I knew I'd been cast. And so I got 2 calls the day I got cast. The first call I got was from my agent saying, "You've booked it. Do you want to accept it?" And I was like, absolutely. And about 30 minutes later, Geoff Johns called me. And then he gave me the rundown of what I was going to be portraying. So like this all, you can imagine having Geoff Johns on the phone with me describing what I was going to be playing, and my jaw just kind of dropped. And I was kind of like, holy smokes, this is kind of a big deal. And so as soon as I kind of, as soon as I came back down to earth and got my wits about me, I started immediately reading up on the gambler. And so there's not a ton of information online. There's, Wikipedia has really good information. And so I immediately started doing my research on the character.
How would you describe him? Because like what from, between me watching the show and like even I just try to do some research on the character, and all I can find is like he likes to gamble and he turns into a villain.
Yeah. So, his backstory is he had a girlfriend. He wanted to marry her. She kind of ran off with someone because he won a big take. He won a large sum of money, and Steven Sharp was upset about it, and a windfall of money came his way by chance, and so he started believing in luck. He ended up going against the Green Lantern. I would describe the gambler, the way I approach the character is he's one part riverboat gambler, which is kind of like, smooth and confident. He's one part Tony Soprano because he's dangerous. And then he's one part Colonel Sanders because he's just got this Southern charm about him. And then every once in a while he gets a little fanciful and throwing a little foghorn leghorn. But I think of him as kind of like a survivor. And he'll do whatever it takes to get through the moment in order to get what he wants in the marathon. And so he is a villain amongst the villains. And so when you look at other villains, they all have superpowers, or they're gifted. Either they have they either have super strength, or they're able to use weapons effectively, or they have a ring, or they can fly, or they're super strength. The gambler is he's just a sociopath. He's just trying to outsmart everyone else. And I think that's an interesting take on a villain, because he doesn't have the superpower to back him up. He's got to be smart, and he's got to be ruthless, because that's the only tools he has. And I find that compelling in a character, that he can't fall back on something beyond himself. He has to always rely on himself.
I know, it's like, it must be a little bummer that you can't wear like a super suit or something like that.
Well, I do have this really amazing outfit that I wore for the pilot, but because I'm not in the pilot very much, like, I basically get thrown by the staff right off the bat. You don't really get a good look at it, but it is really cool. Like, it is this long purple coat with these really nice suit. It's a custom made suit, silk kind of cravat that comes out of my shirt, this really beautiful purple hat. It's a really beautiful outfit. It's not like bulky and like got, abs etched into it, but it makes you feel really slick. Like, I describe the gambler as walking through life like syrup. He just kind of makes his way like almost like a snake, and the outfit really makes you feel slick.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. How fun has it been playing a supervillain?
Oh, man.
Well, not even a villain, not even a supervillain.
It is amazing. It's so much fun. It's I don't know. I think it's every actor's dream, just to play a villain, and to play a supervillain within a DC show. I mean, especially a character that really hasn't been on screen before. So the gambler has only been two-dimensional. You can only see him in the comics. And so I get to kind of define him in 3 dimensions, and his voice and his posture and the way he moves throughout the world. And I think that's an incredible opportunity and a responsibility, quite frankly, to take this character on amongst a group of people who have, kind of followed these characters for some people their entire lives.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what's been like your favorite scene that you were in, or episode?
I've loved them all. I would say my scene with Amy Smart in episode 2, where she's trying to make suggestions at work, and I keep shutting her down. That was one of my favorite scenes to shoot, because first of all, Amy Smart is just delightful to work with and a person, but it was a fun way to establish who the gambler was right off the bat. He's this guy that just irrationally shuts down everyone's idea, and he only asks what people's thoughts are because he thinks everyone needs to hear it. He's really not concerned with it. And that's kind of a fun way to approach a scene. And I would say that was probably my favorite scene of the season.
How much improv do you get to put for the character?
I was given a lot of latitude. I think everybody was, to breathe life into these characters. And I was just reading the other day that, like Angelica and Luke improv'd a great deal of their scene in the last episode the other night on episode 8. So there was a great feeling of collaboration. I can't tell you exactly what I improv'd and what was scripted, because I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But I know that there was a great opportunity for us to just really breathe life and to walk in these shoes, and it was encouraged.
Is there anything that you would change about the character?
I think not necessarily change, but if I were to see the character begin to grow, I would like to see him become a little bit more of an imposing fighter. Like, I'd like to see him be a really good, like Sportsmaster and Tigress. They're incredible fighters.
Yeah.
I would like to see the gambler be incredibly competent as in defending himself, because I think it's unexpected. And you got to think, if this guy carries himself in such a confident way. I've taken martial arts a long time, and one of the things that my instructors always tell me is like, always be careful about the guy who's quiet and doesn't flout his abilities, because that's the guy that knows something you don't. And I think the gambler's kind of like that. I feel like he carries himself as he knows something, or at least he thinks he knows something that no one else knows. And I'd love to see the surprise be that he's this incredible, competent.
That's awesome.
Fighter.
Have they after it was announced that season 2 got picked up, have they said anything to you guys about when do you think you'll start filming?
No, nothing. And I think that's, I think it's a question for everybody right now with the world the way it is and the pandemic. I think everybody's trying to navigate what that looks like, shooting in this environment. So I think everyone's cautious and using, they're being discerning about how to do this and do it properly. And I think at the end of the day, most of the people involved are mostly concerned about everybody's safety and health. And I'll be anxious to see how it all kind of unfolds. But they haven't contacted me specifically.
So what's next for you? Did you have any other projects that you worked on before the whole quarantine started?
No, so I was pretty engaged with Stargirl. I grew the facial hair that I wear on the show it's real, it's mine.
Yeah.
So, I spent 7 months with this long chin beard and the handlebar mustache, and that's a tough look to sell in other projects, right? So I was pretty much committed to Stargirl for the duration of the shoot.
Did you shave that off when you?
I did shoot an episode of Cobra Kai, but I think that was after we wrapped, and I got to shave the facial hair. I actually kept it for a little bit afterwards, and then shaved it.
How many episodes did you do with Cobra Kai?
I just did one, just the one.
Have you watched that show at all?
I have. I think it's a fun show.
Yeah.
Again, Karate Kid is one of my favorite movies. So how can you not like seeing these characters come back? And I think it's a really cool take how they've crafted this story to kind of flip things. I think it's really ingenious.
What I know you can't tell us that much about it, but what episode are you in?
It's in season 3. I don't know what the episode number is, but it'll be the episode that's getting released. I believe it just got moved to Netflix.
It did.
Yeah.
They haven't announced any time yet. People are thinking September, December, who knows?
Well, I can't wait to see it on Netflix. That's for sure.
So do you have like a dream role that you want to play someday?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, the gambler is pretty darn close to being a dream role, and I'd love to see the character, lead to other opportunities. The gambler was about as close to a dream role as you can hope for.
Who knows? We might do a crossover with your character too.
Yeah, who knows? I think being a part of any compelling story that matters, I'm all for. That's kind of where I kind of pride myself on kind of taking things the way they come, and I think all roles can be dream roles if you look at them in the right way.
What's on your downtime? What do you enjoy doing?
I enjoy gardening, if you can imagine, if you can believe that. I really enjoy working out in the garden. I have a small garden on my patio, spending time with my daughter, exercising, and I like to cook.
Oh, there you go. Lastly, how can the listeners find you on social media?
Oh, yeah. The best place to find me is on Instagram, and I'm at _Eric_Goins, and it's ERIC_GOINS. So the Eric Goins on Instagram is probably the best place to find me.
You also have a website. I
do have a website. Thank you for reminding me. I am not very good at promoting myself. It's ericgoins.com. www.ericgoins.com is my website, where you can find out, my Instagram posts are there. You can find out what I'm working on and keep up with things. And then also, I am a part of an improv troupe now. We are called the Buskers. It is me and my wife and our 2 best friends that are also married and just so happen to be my daughter's godparents, and we pretty much do a lot of charity events. So anyone that's looking to have an event and raise money for a cause, we come in and do an improv show, and you can check us out there too. We have a Facebook page called The Buskers.
All right, Eric, man, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Man Cave Chronicles podcast.
I finally get my man cave.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the MCC Podcast and our website, themccpodcast.com. Until next time.